Let me start recording. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Monday Morning Motivation. I hope you are well. It's amazing to see you. Show us your beautiful Monday morning faces, so feel free to turn on your cameras. It doesn't matter if you are in your pajamas. No one really cares. We just want to see your beautiful faces, all right? So today, I have the pleasure to have here with me Sebastian. He's our guest speaker today. He is the business development manager at Bosch. He's also a China knowledge influencer. You can find him on Xiaohongshu, on WeChat channels by searching 德国小哥苏天. And today is going to be talking about socializing mastery, my key learnings from 15 years of practice. So we had already an amazing session at 7 a.m. and very much looking forward to this one. So welcome, Sebastian.
Hello.
And in case we have some newcomers here today, let me just go through very quickly about what MMM is. MMM is a community of like-minded people that like to wake up early in the morning, like to stay active, and especially, get some inspiration and encouragement on Mondays, usually on Mondays, because it's that first day of the week. So people kind of have a little bit of resistance, but we are here to change that, right? And especially during these challenging times as well, it's good to keep positive in a good sense. Of course, it's not like we need to go through certain processes, but overall keeping that positive vibes. We have currently 8 WeChat groups. If you are not in at least one of our WeChat groups, feel free to add me on WeChat, and we will add you to the groups. We have webinars on Mondays and Wednesdays, Mondays in English, and on Wednesdays now we have in Chinese. Sebastian was our speaker just last week for our Chinese webinar. And in case you want to become our member, the good news is that you will get access to all the recordings of the previous webinars, both in English and Chinese, and you will also get exclusive discounts with our partners. We also have some offline events, hopefully coming soon after lockdown. Let's see how things go. We had one planned, but we had to cancel it due to the lockdown. We have our 365 days of motivation book. You can find some great quotes, some self-coaching exercises, and it's a very practical book to keep you inspired throughout the year. It's an excellent gift as well. And we do all of this for free, but of course, always feel free to contribute to let the project grow. And the good news is that you will be contributing also to the 1 million tree project. Last but not least, we have our Monday morning meow. So we have this amazing partnership with Fuzzy Kitten Volunteers. This week we have Nacho. It's our little kitten. He is now starting the vaccinations. He's a male, and he is available to be fostered or adopted. And this is our lineup for April. So we have some great speakers. Stay tuned and don't miss them. Don't miss them out. And with no further ado, I'm gonna pass the word to Sebastian. So Sebastian, now the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly throw on the screen. Just tell me, can you see the screen? I think so, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just let me know if it gets stuck or something, then I can jump back. So welcome everyone. I hope you're doing all fine. We made a little bit of jokes about it, Sophia and I, how to be master in socializing, but we are all at home. So many of these things you can actually also use online, but also feel free to keep them in mind. I will also send out the PPT later, and then you can also use these tools and all these things, the things I'm sharing, once we get out into the real world again. All right. Then let's jump right at it. First of all, quickly, who am I? I make it right with a little tool. So my name is Sebastian. I would say I'm an adventurer. So I really love exploring new things that come with business and with my life. I mean, I work here as a strategy consultant here in China for the last 5 years, but also personally, I'm a very passionate rock climber. And I've been then doing that for 10 years. I like to go out into the nature a lot. Also, another tag I would give myself is that I'm a person that is passionate about learning. And yes, I know you all also passionate about learning. You are here at 8 in the morning to learn more about socializing. But I really mean I'm passionate about learning as well. For example, I love to read a lot. I try to read 2 books a month. I like to learn new languages. I learn German, of course, is my native language, but I learned French, English, Spanish. I learned Latin even in school. I learned Mandarin Chinese, and now I'm also learning Shanghainese. So yes, passionate learner. And the last one, I would say I'm a bit of a weirdo because sometimes I'm a bit different than others. I sometimes enjoy really to go alone out into the nature for a couple of days without my phone and being disconnected. Or I like to be, when everyone wants to go to a bar in the evening in Shanghai, I like to stay home and read some Chinese literature. So that makes me a bit of a weirdo. So if you want to remember me, I'm an adventurer, I love to learn, and I'm a weirdo. And now what you've just heard was kind of a self-introduction, really classic. I'll talk about it in a bit, how I did it and why I did it, because it's the first thing we can learn about socializing. But quick point here, what I also do, except for working as a strategy consultant for Bosch automotive company, I'm a blogger and influencer. I do videos in Chinese on social, not on socializing also, but mostly on culture clash and different culture topics. I'm a live streamer, I'm a speaker and brand ambassador. So I work with brands online and offline to promote them, especially German brands in China. So 17 years ago, I actually was a very introvert person, and maybe I'm still an introvert. Many people say if you're an introvert, you're always an introvert. But I learned to deal with it, and I would say I've become a better socializer, better at these last 15 years or 17 years of practice. And I read some technical books on it, how to socialize and these things, but most of it really came from my own practice, going out into the streets, bars, all kinds of events, and try to get better at talking to others. And today I just want to share it. And the first thing, and you've just noticed what I've done, it was like the self intro. And if you go online on Google, Baidu, or anywhere, you can see there's thousands of ways of making self intros. And it also really depends on the environment, right? So for example, if you have an interview for a job, it will be definitely a different one than M people. Or if you are in a bar and you just meet a person, you wouldn't say, hello, I'm Sebastian and I have these 3 tags. Like in Chinese, you often say, what a 标签. But actually, I think that still we can use certain methodology that all self-intros kind of have alike or have in common. And one, I think, is super important to be concise. Yeah, try to make it short. We have all seen people introducing themselves for 10 or 15 minutes in company presentations. It kind of gets a bit tiring. Another thing is customize it, but have a standard. Right now, as you've noticed, this intro that I've done is kind of standard. I often do it. I usually do it in Chinese. And I would recommend everyone after this presentation, if you don't already have it, have kind of a standard self-intro, which you can always pull out at all kinds of events, but customize it for the situation. For example, just now I referred to the you as MMM people trying to learn, like being passionate about learning. Then if you have, try to make a little joke in there. Humor really helps people to remember you. Work with tags, I just mentioned it. I ideally work with 3, and be brave and to be different. Try to, in your self-intro, it doesn't need to be boring. It doesn't need to be, hello, my name is, I'm this and this years old, I studied this and that. Especially when there are many people introducing themselves, I recommend everyone try to be a bit different. I've even seen people using like acting and making a self-intro very interesting. Yeah, try to experiment with it. And you remember, self-intro is the first thing. The first time people get to know you, you have to introduce yourself. And so it's the first moment, so it's super important. So what is socializing mastery? And usually I make it like a workshop. So I want to know your questions, but just because of time issues, and I want to give you later more space to ask questions, maybe just have a quick thought. What is socializing mastery and what isn't it? I think it's quite easy. Actually, this whole socializing thing is what is really important. No matter what you read about being a great socializer, how to find more friends, how to be confident in social situations, try to always be natural. And I put it in brackets, don't be artificial. Yeah. Whatever you learn, try to give it your own other people's socializing approach. Another thing I would recommend always to do is, sorry, it's not recommend, but I see there's a very strong parallel dating and socializing. Many people kind of separate it, but I think it's kind of the same thing. For example, people want to find the Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, yeah, and then they want to become good at dating, but they are not really confident in socializing. I find it very difficult because actually dating is also kind of socializing. And as soon as you are confident in engaging with groups, it really helps you, like either way around. Enjoy, not enforce. I mean, that's very simple. Sometimes I don't go to a party tired and I feel like I wouldn't enjoy it too much. Just really make sure that when you socialize, you enjoy it and you don't force yourself, because people can often feel if people are forcing themselves to socialize. Another thing is, be interested and give genuine feedback. Actually comes from a book by Dale Carnegie. It's over 100 years old. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a classic in the socializing literature. The title is a bit weird because it's more about how to win friends and not really influence people. And here really if you want to socialize, just try to be interested reading other people, because every individual is kind of interesting. Everyone has something interesting about themselves. And give genuine compliments helps a lot. So if someone does something well, just appreciate for what they've done. And I think these two things are really good guidance already. If you don't know anything about socializing, this is already really good way to start. An exciting life helps. So many people tell me, oh, Sebastian, I have the problem when I meet new people, I don't know what to talk about. And yes, I also find it sometimes challenging, but I read a lot. I like to do rock climbing. I would say my work is quite exciting. I touch upon many industries like semiconductors, automotive. I do blogging. I post videos on social media. I go to lots of events. So I have so much sources to pull from. Whenever I meet a new person, I usually never run out of topics, because in the week before, so many things happened which I can just bring up. So yes, having an exciting life, learning a lot, reading a lot helps to be a better socializer, in my view. It's a game, not one and for all. Sometimes I know probably many of you had the situation where you were socializing with someone, and then it was super awkward and it felt super painful. And you're like, oh, I don't do that ever again. It was so awkward. We all had it. We all have been there. We recommend everyone. It's just one game. Every conversation is, every meeting, every new person is like a little game. You just have to play by the rules. Yeah, you have to respect the rules. You have to try to win the game, of course, in some way, like winning over other people's hearts, let's say, or like socializing with them, getting connected. But if it doesn't work, it's fine. It's not a big deal. And I believe that socializing in some way is cultureless, but it needs to be adjusted. So especially if everyone says like Chinese is China's, everything is totally different. I would say a lot of things are different, and we foreigners learn that a lot on a painful way every day. But I think basic things about socializing, like being interested, giving compliments, smiling, having an exciting life, all these things help for almost every culture, I would say. But you need to be adjusted. So Germans are different than Americans. Americans are different than Chinese. So try to be like kind of nimble in your approach, to really to when you do socializing. And one quick point also on, can socializing be learned? Yes, but, and I find it really important for everyone who, and I mentioned it before, yes, you can learn socializing, but the thing is, it should be natural. Yeah, try to really stay with yourself. Don't try to change yourself or force yourself. And the other thing, it all comes with practice. Reading 10 books on how to socialize doesn't bring you forward if you don't apply it. Better read one book and go out and, or just what I'm teaching or like trying to share with you guys today, and just use it in your environment. Nevertheless, now let's go more practical. In general, I believe many of you are already great socializers. You are at MMM, and I think you have a lot of skills on your hand. And I'm also happy to learn from you guys in the later question session, but let's dive right in. What do I actually mean by how to socialize? One tool, and again, in the workshop version, which I do like 2 hours, I've done for like 2 hours, I did like a little bit of open-ended questions are what, why, where, and all these things. And if you ask a question that is not open-ended, for example, how old are you? What's your name? And all these different, like very simple questions, then people will just give you one word answer. I'm 30, I'm Sebastian. But if you ask an open-ended question like, what are you here? What do you want to achieve in the future? Like all these kind of what, how, why questions, then people can give you longer answers. And then when they answer to you, it's really important to actively listen. I noticed that many people, when they ask a question, they just not really listen and think about the next thing they want to say. And yeah, often then it becomes a bit awkward because the conversations are not really going into another. And then when you really listen, try to give feedback, ask a new interesting question, anything that came up in your mind. And this is really a really simple tool, I find. Ask an open-ended question, listen, and then give feedback. The next one is about, it's called chaining. It's another tool I really like to use. It's like when you see a person, yeah, what the person is wearing. You can see you are at a certain environment, for example, at a business environment, or you are at a dinner party, and you can see what the person looks like, the brands they're wearing. From all these hints, you can pull information and you can start the conversation. And whatever you get back, you can connect to that. For example, I once saw a girl, she was wearing a shirt with amore on it, like it was Italian. Yeah, like it was like, wow, that's interesting. Have you been to Italy before? Or actually it was amor in Spanish, and it was more than about Spain because my father's from Spain actually. And then we started talking, oh yeah, my family's from Spain, interesting, have you been there? And then whatever comes next, I chain in a new topic. And this is a really great tool, especially for the people out there who are afraid of having like these awkward moments. I don't know what to talk about. And I also have it sometimes, and I use this chaining technique to connect topics with another and look at hints from the environment to come up with new topics. So what do you do if you get rejected? And this question I get a lot. Sometimes, especially in a dating environment, but also normal environment, people might not directly reject you. But what often happens is that people don't really show the motivation to talk to you. It's really awkward. They kind of make really hard time for you. Like you ask a question and they just, yes, no, What do you do? Like in my opinion, what is good, first of all, to make sure that you used all the tools you have at hand. What I mentioned, for example, chaining, being interested, giving compliments, asking customized questions, etc. But if nothing works, and that's super important, is really find an exit option, and it's totally fine. Yeah, don't force yourself to socialize with a person that is generally not interested. You can try to crack the nut, as you say in English. You can be very customized. You can even appreciate the person. You can let the person talk about themselves, because most of the people most like the most when they can talk about themselves. But if nothing works, that's fine, and you go for the exit option. And exit, I usually refer to pull, not push factors. What do I mean by that? So you can say, I want to not talk to you anymore because you are very boring, or I don't want to talk to you anymore because I think you are not a nice person. Would I recommend doing that? No, I would never recommend doing that. Even that I'm a German who likes to be very direct, I would never do that. What I would do, I would refer to the pull factors. Why do I want to talk to other people maybe? So when I'm in a networking event, I would say, very interesting. Thank you very much for the conversation, but I really have to run off because there's so many other people. I really want to have a look around and meet all the other people as well. So that's how suggestion on how you can exit a conversation that is really not comfortable. Group socializing. Many people say it's easy for me to socialize if there's one person, just go over and say hello. But if there's a group, it's very challenging. And actually, I find it as well, especially, for example, if they're all laughing, they have a very great time, and you are like, oh, okay, now I'm joining as the newcomer in the group. What I recommend here is not to interrupt, because often someone is just telling a really cool story about his life. And if you jump into the conversation and interrupt that person, they might be pretty angry at you or not very amused. So enter smoothly, don't interrupt. The second thing what I recommend, or what I've learned from my practice kind of in socializing, is tune in and comment if possible. So like a radio frequency, you tune in and you try to find out what they're talking about. And when there's a point where you can connect with, pull that. For example, they suddenly start talking about sport. And I would be, wow, sport. I really love sport as well. I'm a rock climber. Have you been rock climbing before? And this way you can really smoothly enter the conversation. I also recommend to actively take up like an active role, not just stand there and listen, but always contribute to the conversation. Maybe even become the moderator of the group. All possible. That's just a recommendation from my side. And also talk to all of the members. I don't know if you had the situation that one person entered the group and he was more talking to one person and the others were standing at the side, very awkward and didn't really contribute. What I recommend is to always include all of them, talk to all of them, and sometimes even ask someone in the group a question to contribute. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Did you have the same situation? So that's really good. So the people feel integrated and they will be very, very thankful for that. Leave with style again. Try to find an excuse, maybe like a common excuse which you really mean, not lie. Like you can say you want to go to the toilet, but I think it's often people know that it's not the truth. So I would be more like, I want to meet some other people. Or what I find sometimes interesting is when you are in a group and next to there's another group, you can look over the shoulder and listen in what they are saying. Again, the radio, you tune in. And when you find a point, you can just over your shoulder, add in a word, and then you can slowly turn around. That's what I actually often do at large socializing events. So another quick, we're almost at the end. I just give two more little things. One is because I had the question quite often, what is like a recommendation for socializing on social media, such as WeChat? And here just some very basic things I noticed that many people kind of get wrong. One is they would add someone else without having a connection, like a personal connection. So let's say I'm in a networking event and I see a person and I just come over and say, hey, let's add WeChat. And I had many people also in China that just do that and they come with their QR code, add me. And the connection we have built is not strong. And later we will usually not meet again or have any real conversation because offline, we didn't build any connection. So no matter if it's dating or socializing, networking, whatever it is, I would always recommend meet the person, get to know the person, find a common ground, and then be like, that's interesting. Again, rock climbing, for example. You also like to climb. Let's go together. Let's get connected on WeChat so we can meet up later. So that's really provide a clear rationale why you should connect and send a close and short follow-up. That's what I always recommend. Many people don't do that. They add someone and then they don't really follow up, or they after 1 week they might say hello. I often do it on the same day, even within 1 hour after adding this person, to say, hey, it was nice to meet you. Really interesting on this and this topic. Let's connect again and let's maybe meet up sometime. You get a lot more out of socializing and out of WeChat as a tool for socializing if you, my personal experience. And I would always recommend to never be pushy. So I sometimes have the thing that people add me. Sometimes, for example, I do Xiaohongshu, where I do videos, and then sometimes people want to add me. I'm like, okay. And then they send me like hundreds of messages and they ask me why I'm not answering. Here again, I would always recommend, and I believe that no one here does that actually, but just saying again, try not to manage other person's time. It's really good that giving people space. If they don't answer within 3 days, you can say, hey, or you can maybe send a follow-up. But in my opinion, like being really like penetrating often makes people even less wanting to engage with you. Just my personal experience, and also I feel like that as well. All right, quick one, because I believe there are quite a few Chinese here. I see that actually on the names, there are quite a few Chinese. I believe most of you speak very fluent English. Most of you probably have been abroad and in Shanghai or China have a lot of foreign friends. So sorry if you feel like this is kind of knowledge I know about. I don't need that. Just real quick, 2 minutes. My key takeaways, things I noticed, especially Chinese people trying to socialize with me, what kind of little mistakes they make. Not real mistakes, but things which can be improved, let's say it. But first and foremost, I believe all the 7.5 billion people in the world, everyone is different. But I can see really the tendency of especially European and Americans socializing with Asians. There's some things that often I notice that happen. And one thing is many Chinese people, and I also made a video on that on my channel actually, say like 5 sentences usually to me. Just some examples. They would say, 你的中文很棒, like your Chinese is really good. 你好帅, you are handsome. 你定居了吗? Like, did you decide to stay in China for long? And all these kind of standard questions. And now I had some people being very angry with me in the comments on under this video. Please don't get me wrong. I really like it about the Chinese culture that you appreciate others and you give them compliments, and it's great. But if you want to connect with especially with a Western foreigner who meets many Chinese people there, and 90% of the Chinese people say these stereotypical sentences, it's really hard for them to connect with you because the filter kind of says, okay, it's the same thing I heard over and over again. Especially the sentence, 你的中文很棒. I heard it so many times, and now it's really hard for me to build a connection upon that. So what I recommend, even though it's meant in a nice way, I would rather talk about topics which are a bit different. For example, I'm from Germany. If someone tells me, oh, I've been to Berlin, it's a nice city, I've been there and there. Wow, you have a connection. So I would always try to be different when socializing with a foreigner and think of what do most of the Chinese people say to foreigners and then don't say it. That's just my personal recommendation. By the way, I do the same also with Chinese people, and try not to be like every foreigner. That's what I try, just to distinguish myself from the crowd. Appearance, body contact, criticism, just in general. For example, body contact, many foreigners like to touch. You've probably noticed it also in South America, especially. My father's, they like Spain, Chile. They also like to touch a lot. Again, here, quick recommendation. Yes, they are here, the foreigners here in China. So they should respect Chinese culture and like integrate themselves. I totally agree with that. But some, they just really live in the expat bubble and they don't have many Chinese friends or talk to many Chinese people. So they might not have learned these little things, like not touching too much or things. If they do it, I would always try to relax and be like, okay, be like understanding. And this helps really, again, for you, for the purpose to socialize better with that person. Yeah. Or for example, direct criticism. Foreigners like to criticize much more directly. Just be more relaxed with it. I also try to criticize less because Germans like to criticize a lot. But yeah, just like try to adjust to it when you meet a foreigner that he's maybe not that well integrated. Summary, self-info, concise, 3 tags, I would recommend. Try to be different. Regarding socializing, be natural, enjoy it, be interested and give compliments wherever you can. Tools, I mentioned them, for example, you can ask open-ended questions more, you can listen very well, and you can use the chaining technique. Another thing is about rejections. Try all the skills you have. If not, just exit. That's totally fine and use an elegant way. Groups, enter smoothly, contribute to the conversation, and also, again, leave with style if you feel like it. WeChat or other social media platforms, add only with a purpose. Yeah, don't just randomly add a person. That's my recommendation. Follow up immediately. Yeah, these are kind of the things I would recommend. And Westerners, distinguish yourself and be tolerant if they don't get Chinese culture that well, that's fine. Sometimes just try to go with the flow. And that's pretty much from my side. I hope it was helpful. Thank you very much for your questions, which are hopefully coming in. And I hope you could take something away from this little sharing.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Thank you for these brilliant tips on socializing. And I was just thinking, I've mentioned these also in the previous talk. I think sometimes when we socialize, we really put people on a pedestal, right? For some reason, maybe because the person, we just have a feeling that that person somehow is superior. It doesn't matter the reason, but we just put people on pedestals. And what happens is when we do that, we already kind of create the awkwardness, right? Because we are putting ourselves in a lower position. So we are already creating that distance. And this is very unconscious, I believe. So when we create more awareness on that, we also, when we are talking from kind of somehow on the same level, at the same level, it's just easier to create that connection. Do you agree?
Very, very true point. Also, sorry, just one thing. I have my WeChat, my LinkedIn, my Xiaohongshu, and my Bilibili here. Feel free to scan any of them. And if we cannot go through the questions, also feel free to shoot me any question on WeChat, and happy to connect with you. And yeah, regarding what you've just said, yeah, I totally agree. For example, in Chinese, you also have the nin and ni and nin. In English, you only have you, but in German, we also have du and sie, which also is the ni and nin. And I often try to avoid, for example, the nin because, or the sie, because it already creates distance right from the beginning. If you use a super polite form, often people feel a bit more distant. Or if you call them like a Laoban, like boss, sometimes it's nice, especially in Chinese culture. Some bosses like to be kind of the Laoban. But in Germany also we have it. Many people like this. But in any situation, I often try to reduce the distance I have. For example, now being a social media influencer with only 10,000 fans on Xiaohongshu and almost 10,000 on Bilibili, I sometimes meet influencers who have millions of fans. And yeah, I also get a bit nervous because they are super successful. But then I try not to put them on the higher level because otherwise, yeah, it's really hard to communicate.
Great, thank you so much, Sebastian. Guys, now it's your turn to ask questions, so feel free to ask your questions right now. You can unmute yourself, show us your beautiful faces, or just write down in the chat box down below. Also, Sebastian just shared his contact information, so if anyone is interested in reaching out to Sebastian, you can also do it directly or through the chat, through our WeChat groups. Great.
You don't have to show your face if you want to use it. The voice is also just fine.
Show your pajamas. We want to see your pajamas. That's what I'm saying all morning. Is like, guys, don't. That's okay. We accept you. You in your pajamas. Actually, that's an amazing idea. We should do a pajamas party. You know, like MMM pajamas party. Maybe next week. Let's see how the lockdown goes.
Any questions?
Right.
Anything that wasn't clear?
All right, so Kay is asking, is it a culture that Westerners all like to go for a beer after work? Is it
okay. Depends on the country, of course, and then again on the individual. But yeah, there's definitely some cultures where it's more common. For example, I know
German, right?
in Germany, actually, it depends where you are. But I'm from Berlin. We don't really do that. So like in Berlin, people are all about sport, and maybe you go for a hike after work or go to the gym together. But yeah, the socializing thing after work is in some cultures very common. I mean, in South America, it's even much more common. In the UK, I know that they often have a beer at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., especially on Friday and things. Depends on the culture. Actually, I don't do it that much, and my hometown also. But it really depends on the country and the city again where you're from. Yeah.
True. Thank you.
I have one question here, or maybe you also, Sebastian, why you were interested to start your own blog. Actually, it was different reasons. One is many people told me, hey, you speak some Chinese, you look okay, you like to share your points, you are confident in front of the camera. Why not start doing videos? That's been 3 years ago. And now that just end of last year, I started then finally. Because I like to, of course, it's a way of practicing my Chinese, about creating content. I find it very interesting and creative, and I have lots of ideas to share. And some of the videos actually got a couple of million viewers because they hit like a right tone and people found it interesting, especially about culture clash. And yeah, I like to share and discuss these topics. So it's just enjoying. But maybe later, I already started earning some money, but maybe later I can make it a business. But that's not the first reason. More, it's now about just enjoying the process.
Great. And social media is a platform, right? So, I mean, even if it's not the business core, but it's always a platform also to, to get known, right?
Yeah, I made a MMM sharing last week in Chinese about my social media thing, and I don't know if someone has been there as well. But yeah, there I talked about actually why I did it and how I earn money with it and how to create a side business. and I get lots of new clients for my freelance consulting. I do freelance consulting, especially for Chinese companies that want to enter Germany. And I get a lot of this requests through Xiaohongshu actually. And some acting things, advertisement, and public speaking comes a lot through social media contacts. Even TV shows have contacted me. And yeah, so it's a great opportunity, a great platform, right?
Yeah, and we've also met through, like, it was not through social media, but it was also for a social media project, right?
Exactly, yeah, we were at a film shooting, yeah. That was again
Exactly.
also through Xiaohongshu. So like, follow me on Xiaohongshu and recommend it.
Yeah. All right. So does anyone else has questions?
How to use
Okay, you've written.
how to use original LinkedIn international version in mainland China instead of the forced updated cutoff. VPN. I hope I can say it here, but yeah, I have my VPN to use the original LinkedIn.
Better to keep it low profile. Yeah.
But
Right.
I heard people use a VPN. Sorry, I don't use a VPN, but I heard people using a VPN. Okay, yeah, there's someone said it. But in general, I also have to say that